The first problem with people going sober is that alcohol is the only drug where if you don't do it, people assume you have a problem. There is a branding issue with sobriety in that the only people that don't drink are presumed to be closet alcoholics. And I get messages from people who haven't seen the history of my content, and then they'll just come upon a post and it says, I'm 10 months sober, I'm 18 months, I'm 20 months sober, whatever it might be. Congratulations so much. I have to say, I loved AA. I thought that the support there was great. And I'm like, I feel like an imposter. Like, I thank you for congratulating me, but being honest, I've never had a problem with substances. Oh, okay. Well, why? What's the reason? It's just a productivity tool. The same way as people decide to focus on their sleep or their nutrition or their training or whatever it is. It's just another tool.
Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio. What is happening? As is the theme with a lot of these podcasts during this lockdown period, we're kind of ignoring it. Like it's just happening, but just pretend it's not there. Let's just look to move forward. Let's look to improve areas of our lives that we can. Let's look to muse, and we will be doing that today. There's not many guests that returned to the show. There's probably been about 6 over the years that have returned to the show, but I was watching Chris. I was watching his Instagram stories the other day, and he was talking about a topic that I've been thinking about a lot about recently. And it's been covered in the news quite a bit because obviously people are locked at home, and what's now happening is our kind of habits, our beliefs, our environments, they've kind of compounded, they've intensified because we're at home. And whether that's a positive or a negative thing, it's either become more positive or more negative. And I thought the topic of alcohol and our relationship with it was something that I wanted to go further down the rabbit hole with. And on the first episode of this show with Chris, we talked about it, but we only really spent sort of about 10 minutes on it. And having watched Chris's Instagram story, it was just a post on Instagram, I think, I was like, yes, let's go there. Chris, get back on the show. So, Chris Williamson, welcome back to the show.
Great honor, mate. Doubled up. 2 episodes. What can I say? Yeah, man, absolute pleasure to be back on, and looking forward to talking about something that I spend a lot of time thinking about. So yeah, let's get into it.
Why do you continue to think about it?
I think that a lot of people's alcohol use is habituated rather than chosen. That's the bottom line. I think most people drink because other people did, and then they started to. Just societal norm. And then you roll the clock forward by 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, and you've taken a drug. You can call it what it is. Alcohol's a drug. You've taken a drug more frequently than once every fortnight for decades. Like if you just arrived on Earth and were like, what are some of the rules about how you operate as a human? Some alien civilization comes down here in the UFO and you say, oh, there's this and you do and this that you do, and you got to walk on your feet and you do this gravity and all this sort of stuff. And then you go, oh yeah, by the way, there's this drug that you take, and you're kind of not forced to take it. It will shorten your life. Also, it gives you memory loss. Also, it makes you fat. Also, it makes you want to eat, and it makes you feel like depressed and terrible the next day. But you're gonna have it more than you're gonna choose to have it more than once every 2 weeks, and then. Yeah, I mean, look at what's happened with lockdown, man. There's the biggest uproar in America. One of the biggest uproars in America was when the government threatened to make off licenses, like liquor stores, they'd call them, non-essential, and shut them down. And there was people hoarding alcohol. What does that tell us? It tells us that people struggle to get through hard times without the buttress, the scaffolding that is alcohol. So I think about it a lot, and then I have 6monthssober.com, which is an online course I made to help guide people that just want to deprogram their use of alcohol, not for people that have substance abuse problems, but just for people who want to use the foundation of consistency that sobriety gives you to then build yourself and improve yourself. And I'm 20 months sober as of last week. And it's so bizarre that going sober's got an addictive essence to it, because you see the consistency you have more time, you have more money, you have more calories to spend on things that you truly care about. And then you realize that when you choose to reintegrate drinking, if you choose to reintegrate drinking, that it's on your terms. that you were in full control, because you've deprogrammed the need to feel worried that you can go on a night out with your buddies and them say, why are you not drinking? Or you've deprogrammed the need to feel like you need alcohol to give you confidence to go up and talk to that girl or that guy, or to just be in a group, or because you taste buds have become accustomed to having like and you're a sparkling water fan, aren't you? I've seen you talk about yeah. So, to just be able to get away with a LaCroix or whatever it might be, a San Pellegrino or whatever at the table instead of getting a bottle of wine in. So you do all this deprogramming and you realize, hang on, I'm actually now re-released into the world and I've got full control, as opposed to thinking that I've got control, right? So yeah, that's it, man. That's foundation, base. That's what we're talking about.
So before we go on and go down a couple of rabbit holes, let's do a quick elevator pitch. Some people have not listened to my show before. Some people might not know who you are. What is the Chris Williamson elevator pitch? Who is this man?
Okay, a business owner from Newcastle, club promoter, run nightclubs for 13 years. I've seen 1 million drunk people go in and out of them, so I understand how alcohol works. I understand what party life is. For a very long time was the party boy. I was the dickhead club promoter, the guy around town, big dick on campus, all this stuff. Did Take Me Out, got to go to Fernando's and meet Paddy McGuinness, great. Did Love Island, got to meet Caroline Flack and go to the Villa, also great, fantastic, blue tick on Twitter, all the big things, big headlines. Then started Modern Wisdom, which is my podcast. Started that 2.5 years ago, just crossed 2 million downloads, which is fantastic, aided in a big way by yourself giving me a platform early on while we were doing that, and drove a lot of plays off the back of that. So I have a lot to thank you for on that, Ben. And then that's it, man. I'm curious as fuck. Like I just want to know about everything. I'm super, super curious. And that has led me, I've got a desire with performance and productivity and optimizing as well. Not super like quantified self stuff, but I like to get better and I have a growth mindset. And that just meant I started playing around with loads of different things, loads of different ways to improve my life, with intermittent fasting and different ways of changing your sleep up and all this sort of things. And one of the most effective things that I found was going sober. Despite the fact that I was a very infrequent drinker, I still found huge gains from it. And I guess that's the route into how sobriety came in there. But yeah, that's it. And we're now on the 13th floor and you can step out onto your veranda or wherever we are in this elevator.
So you bring up an interesting topic there, because I've just started talking to a therapist again. And I went to this therapist and said, I don't have a problem. I'm not in pain. I don't need anything primarily like solving. But right now I feel like I'm in a really good place with everything. My body, my mind, my business. I'm really balanced and, I'm really happy. And I get that I'm very fortunate for a couple of reasons due to that. And I don't want to kind of deliberate on that because we're in lockdown and I live in the countryside and I'm not in a stuffy flat and all these things. But I've worked hard, in my opinion, on my mental game to be really content with wherever I am in life. So I went to this therapist and I started chatting to her and I said, I'm here because I want to understand if I actually know my truth and it's not any element of my ego sort of disguising my own wisdom. I almost want you to like catch me out. Mm-hmm. And as we were talking through these different layers, we started to talk about our character traits, and I resonate with you because I think we're quite similar. We love exploring the mind. We just love personal development. And there was a point in the conversation where it's almost like you try and aim to become so pure and so understood and so balanced and so consistent that do you lose yourself in it? And that do you forget to relax and have fun and chill out? And because my therapist used an example that she loves to be really organized, and I do as well. And it's like we were almost joking about how we like to organize our downtime. And I just said to her, I was like, am I forgetting how to relax? Like, and it was really interesting to hearing you talk about you just being like fully in control and immersed and having a routine. Like, how does that narrative sit to you? Do you feel like you're living every sense of kind of your life in all this kind of optimization that is almost, are you standing back enough to just sort of be present? I don't know. Do you get where I'm going?
No, I totally understand your question, man. I think the first thing for anyone that's new or experienced to the self-development world to appreciate is that there's layers to this game, you know? There is, and it is an onion, and unfortunately, it's an endless onion. You peel away some persona, you strip away some ego, and you're like, yes, that's it, that's me, I'm at the core. And you're like, wait, hang on, and you realize, and the way to work this out is, do you think that you, 12 to 24 months ago, on balance, was actually a little bit of an idiot? And always that's the case. You're like, fuck, God, I thought I had it figured out. I thought I had it figured out 2 years ago, and look what's happened. I'm still, you know, I didn't know anything. And it's like, in 2 years' time, you're going to look back at the person that you are now, and you're going to say the same thing, which is both a blessing and a curse, because if you're constantly growing, inevitably you're going to leave old versions of yourself behind, right? And the way that our lives work as well, there's epochs of our life, these kind of like maybe between 2 and 5 year segments, I think, that we move through, where we could bunch together a common story, you know, like a theme that 2 to 5 years has got, and then it's okay, and then I'm on to this bit, and I'm on to this bit, and I'm on to this bit, and that's real typical, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, there's this quote from an ancient philosopher. I'm going to see if I've got down here for you. Let me see if I can find you this. So I'm reading one of the best articles that I've ever read at the moment. And what they talk about is how spontaneity is actually created through discipline in the beginning, right? And that sounds a little bit bizarre. You're like, well, hang on. Spontaneity and discipline to me are two different things. Like, how can you have a situation where you how can you have a situation where you have a very structured life and you are constantly, I know how much I'm going to eat, I know what time I'm going to wake up, I've got my morning routine and my evening routine and my work routine, and this is how my desk's set and all the rest of this stuff. And how can I allow that, or how does that mix in with other things? And there's this Wu Wei, there it is. So there's a quote from, and this is a guy called Kyle N. Schroeder who wrote the article, and it's so good. So, in the early stages of training, an aspiring Confucian gentleman needs to memorize entire shelves of archaic texts, learn the precise angle at which to bow, and learn the lengths of steps with which he is to enter the room. His sitting mat must always be perfectly straight. All of this rigor and restraint, however, is ultimately aimed at producing a cultivated but nonetheless genuine form of spontaneity. Indeed, the process of training is not considered complete until the individual has passed completely beyond the need for thought or effort. And this ties in with the way that the brain works as well. Anybody that's read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman knows this. That you've got the instinctive response, which is your system 1, and then you've got the slower, more considered response, which is number 2. Now, what you need to do, and what a lot of routines do, is they actually pull you out of the first type of thinking. They pull you out of that. They stop you from having just the visceral response, the instinctive response. You become more considered. And yeah, you have to go through sometimes an almost lifelong period of discipline. But as that slowly reintegrates, what you realize is that the discipline has become your nature. So the fact that you want to be more grateful, so you have to practice gratitude every single morning for 3 or 4 years. And then over time, you're actually like, hang on a second, I'm being grateful here. In exactly the same way as I want to be a little bit more muscular. So you start doing weight training. And at the beginning, you don't have muscles. And over time, you're still doing the training, and yet your muscles are there to stay. Does that make sense? Mm. And that kind of movement between the two. But I totally get what you mean, man, that it feels like discipline can be a bit of a burden. And for a lot of people, it is. But I think that's more a problem to do with the way that we're brought into this world, like school. So the word school is an ancient Greek word that means play. It doesn't mean education. It doesn't mean place of, like discipline. It means play. And yet, when you go to school, you think, I've got to go to school, not I get to go to school, and all this sort of stuff. So I think discipline and the way that we get socialized into that is a big part of it, right? And a lot of people shy away from, their time off, their weekends. Oh, I'll just sleep in till 10 o'clock and I'll do whatever I want and this, that, and the other. That's totally sweet. But long term, over time, if you are disciplined, you actually, oddly enough, end up liberating yourself.
So, with all that being said, this is one of my pet hates with many people's relationship with technology, and alcohol will tie into this at a different level as well. But because we're so connected, I feel that everything kind of jumbles through each other. There's these energies and identities that are constantly mixing. And I was speaking to my kind of therapist, and we were identifying layers of my character and how I wanted to behave in my business life, my personal life. And I remember listening to an interview with Ant Middleton. Don't know if you've ever spoken to Ant Middleton.
No, I had Ollie Ollerton on last week, so his second in command to Ant. But yeah, Ant's a badass. He's legit.
Nice. So I met Ant at the UK Fitness Awards, and I had a little chat with him. Great guy. And then I listened to him on another podcast, and he gave some really polarizing opinions. And there was a couple of things that I kind of disagreed with. And I was like, I can't disagree because I don't know enough context. So I downloaded his book at the beginning of the weekend, and I started racing through his audio book, which is brilliant because I love like war stories, because it's always like, it's stuff that we, like, what I'll say is mortals never get to experience. We're not fucking soldiers. Like, so I love listening to that kind of stuff. And anyway, he talks about all these layers of everyone's identity, and most men will have a problem going from work dude to leader dude to workout dude to dad dude to husband dude, because it's all getting muddied of this interconnectedness. And I thought it was really good for me, because when I look at my life, I want to turn up in a certain way to every environment. And I think, you know, what we're getting at with wanting to develop ourselves is like, when you and I go to work, we want to be a certain person, and we want to turn up for those 5, 6, 7, 8 hours as a certain person. But as soon as we walk through the door at home, we want to be a slightly different person. But actually, all of that sometimes gets lost. And I never think that, or I think that people struggle to live that kind of true self in every environment. And perhaps that's the beauty of all of this, is developing yourself that you can live to your truest, best identity in any given environment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, there's people that you know that are argumentative at work, and they'll be argumentative at home. You know, there's certain themes that go through people's lives. But again, with this is a Seneca quote that he talks about the virtuous mean, which is not a vice of deficiency nor a vice of excess. And I think one of the reasons why people like to go all in like work mode and athlete mode and dad mode and all the rest of it is that the same reason it's easier to finish an entire packet of biscuits than it is to just eat one. It's like, I'm good at black and white. It's gray area thinking where you have to do a little bit, but not too much. So I need to be a bit of a disciplinarian with my kids, but I also need to give them a bit of love. And I also, at work, I need to care about people. I need to get them to buy into me, but also I've got to treat them as if they are, in one way or another, a little bit children. And then with the wife, I also need to make sure that we're loving and caring, but I also need to stand my own, and you know, all these different things. It's challenging. That's why life is real difficult. And this is why, for me, bizarrely, like a huge respect to the people who don't bother to delve into the world of self-development, because they're living, you know, by and large from the outside, just as effective a life as anybody else, but they're not, they're like, and they're totally, my business partner, Darren, like, he'll pick up some of the stuff that I say from the podcast, but he doesn't care, man. He's got 2 kids, 2 dogs, beautiful wife, beautiful house, and he operates fine, you know, like he functions completely great. But I do think, you know, there's things that all of us can improve on here and there. And I think being true to yourself, as you've mentioned a number of times, you know, enacting your logos, as Jordan Peterson would say, what is your inner truth and how are you speaking it forward into the world? That's what we should be trying to achieve where we can.
Sorry, that was a little tangent. We did start off talking about alcohol. Let's delve back into alcohol. Hopefully a few of those things have made us think on the old grey matter already. So with alcohol, the first show that we kind of talked about the reasons why you'd done it and what it had led to: clearer thinking, better routine, not getting a groggy head, all the kind of stuff that anyone would experience if they stopped taking alcohol for a week. You'd feel a bit better over time. When you challenge people online, what is quite often the roadblocks for people actually committing to what you're saying? Almost, what are they scared of?
The first problem with people going sober is that alcohol is the only drug where if you don't do it, people assume you have a problem. There's a branding issue. There is a branding issue with sobriety in that the only people that don't drink are presumed to be closet alcoholics. And I get messages from people who haven't seen lots of my back end content or like a history of my content. And then they'll just come upon a post that's maybe appeared on the news feed and it says, I'm 10 months sober, I'm 18 months, I'm 20 months sober, whatever it might be. Congratulations so much. I have to say, I loved AA. I thought that the support there was great. And I'm like, I feel like an imposter. Like, I appreciate that. I thank you for congratulating me, but being honest, I've never had a problem with substances. Oh, okay. Well, why? What's the reason? It's just a productivity tool, the same way as people decide to focus on their sleep or their nutrition or their training or whatever it is. I took alcohol out of my life. You might reduce processed foods, or you might take out carbs. You might go keto. Like it's just another tool. So challenges that people come up against. Number one is social influence. So they don't want to feel like their friends are going to take the piss out of them because they're not drinking. Again, going sober. There's kind of this boy club playful, even for girls, this like quite boys club playful, oh mate, go on, just have one. And people make up excuses. People are, I've got the car. It's like, you've only driven so that you can say that you don't have to drink, because like having the car is one of the few acceptable, like that and being pregnant are the only two acceptable excuses about why you're not drinking, So social pressures, big deal for people, right? Buttressing of confidence is another one, either in groups, especially if you're single, especially if you're single and especially if you're a bloke that's single, because as a guy, you are expected to be the sexual protagonist, right? You're expected to go up to the girls. If there are any girls listening who are the ones that start off these conversations in bars and clubs, and it doesn't count if you get your friend to go up on your behalf or if you're the friend, that's not how it works. But if you're one of the girls that goes up and says, like, I think that you're really good looking, or are you single, or hi, what's your name, would you like a drink, or any of that, you are a very unique individual, because for the most part, it's men, right? So men use that. Dutch courage, everyone knows what that's like. After that, there's the midweek drinker. So you would have someone who has stresses at work. They would use their alcohol to deal with that. And their concern would be, well, if alcohol's my coping mechanism and it allows me, I just want to relax, it just helps me relax on a night. They would never say coping mechanism. They would just say, it just helps me relax after I've had it. And it's like, that's a coping mechanism. That's it by definition. Some people would use it to help themselves sleep on a night. That is just a complete non sequitur, because you're not sleeping, you're just sedated. The research that comes out from Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep, is pretty robust on that, where he says the reason that you have crazy dreams when you've been drinking a lot is because your REM sleep hasn't been able to begin until all of the alcohol's been processed out of your system. And that's why, like, the last couple of hours maybe of a night when you've had a few drinks is where you have mad dreams, because your brain's trying to condense all of that down, right? So that's some of the big ones. I mean, there's tons of other things, right? There's like... So
before we go down more rabbit holes or give more reasons, I'm fascinated by the first point, because that's obviously a problem for a huge amount of people, because a lot of us have certain friend groups, and if the friend groups always drink and you don't drink, then the friend group dynamic becomes different or difficult, and you become maybe quickly the outcast. So like, when you've worked with people, what generally happens? Does the person almost think, I'm not sure if these people or some of these people can be my friends anymore, because it's like we just go out and drink? But then there's a confidence issue, because then where does that person sort of almost get their confidence from? And I suppose it's like anything. Once you reveal a layer of the onion, it's like, well, now we need to go to the next layer, because you're not actually confident. So now we need to work on your confidence. You don't need the alcohol in a social situation or with girls or with family or with anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a quote from James Clear here that I've just pulled up. Changing your habits often requires you to change your tribe. Each tribe has a set of shared expectations. Behaviors that conform to the shared expectations are attractive. Behaviors that conflict with the shared expectations are unattractive. It's hard to go against the group. So that there shows we're tribal creatures. There's them and us. That's why football teams and football supporters that's why world wars are started. That's why there's rivalry between different political factions or religious factions or whatever it might be. So you're right. The first problem is going to be you're around a bunch of people who are used to you drinking. But the way that people that I've worked with, a lot of the clients have dealt with it is by finding the friends who they can bear to be around sober. And this is a really challenging thing to realize, right? How many of the friends that you have do you only spend time with when you drink? And then think from that group, how many of them could you bear to be around without alcohol? Like, if the only time that your friends are happy with you being with them is when you're destroying yourself along with them, then you need better friends. And if you find out that the only way you can bear to be around them is by being drunk, okay, then you definitely need better friends. Be friends with people that want the best for you. People that not just ones that fucking take the path of least resistance. People that just tell you what you want to hear. Like, the point is to be with people who raise you up, who make you better. And if you say, hey, I'm doing this 6-month sober challenge thing. I'm going to do that 90 days. I'm going to try and go sober for 90 days. They don't just go, oh, fucking hell, mate. What are you, pussy? No, be with the people who go, all right, well, you're going to be a bit more boring on a night out, but that's cool. It'll be sweet to see how you get on. And I really hope that you do well and this, that, and the other. And again, with that, as your domain of competence grows, and this is something that's so insidious, man, and this is why people need to strip away the ego, because you can influence someone really negatively if you're not careful, right? So that person, you're one friend, I'm the other. You've come to me and you've said, hey, Chris, I'm thinking about going sober, and I'm the guy that goes, that sounds totally shit. Why would you bother doing that? It's Jono's 33rd next week. You can't miss out on Jono's 33rd. You're like, his 32nd was fucking wank. Why would he be bothered about his 33rd? So you've got that, and this person, the me, the shithouse version of me that I've just given you there, that could be the barrier that stops you, that creates inertia, that stops you from making a really important piece of behavior change in your life that would upgrade you, make you happier, and make you healthier, and give you more money and time and calories to spend on shit you care about. That's, you can be that influence in people's lives. It doesn't take much to actually be a real positive influence. So when people decide to go sober, they need to look at who are the people in the group that support them, as opposed to someone who says that's totally shit. What about the friend that goes, actually, mate, do you reckon I could do it as well? Do you reckon we could do it together and be accountability buddies or whatever? How amazing would that be? Those are the people who have your best interests at heart, the ones that want that. And the final point on this is, and this goes for all behavior change. It also goes for, again, especially a little bit more so with guys, because they tend to be quite territorial. But as your domain of competence grows, as a guy or a girl, your domain of competence grows and you start to improve yourself, you're going to hold a very, very harsh mirror up to the bad habits of the people that are around you. And that can cause those people to start to lash out. They can start to say things because your improvement and your progression makes them feel incredibly self-conscious, incredibly worthless, because you're pulling ahead. You're like, hang on a second, we finished uni at the same time, but how come you bought a house at 26? Oh, well, mate, it's because I haven't had a car on PCP that cost $1,000 a month for the last 4 years, or whatever it might be, or why you lean? Oh, it's because I went to the gym as opposed to just going out and having a takeaway every night, or pick whatever domain it is, but especially with alcohol, because it's inherently so social. As you start to move away from people like that, they can start to lash out, and they'll purposefully, with behaviors that go against the tribe are kind of punished. They'll start to push you out. But do you want to be friends with those sorts of people? The answer is no. And so many friendship groups are just grandfathered in. They're these artifacts of a time gone by. It's when I used to play rugby. Bro, you haven't played rugby in a decade. What are you on about? The only thing that you and these people have in common is the fact that you once did a thing forever ago. And all that you now talk about is that thing you did forever ago. That's totally fine if you want to live a life that's stuck in the past. But if you want to live a life that's constantly moving forward, then allow the waste men and the waste chicks that you've accumulated along the way, allow them to fall away. And again, as you go sober, as you do any behavior change, start eating more healthily, go to the gym, do whatever it is that you start to do, but specifically with alcohol. As you go sober, you will start to see the world for what it is. And this is why I keep on referring to going sober as taking the ultimate red pill. Like that you stop seeing Matrix and you start seeing code, and you realize, hang on a second, that guy's actually really, really negative, or that girl's actually really, really bad for me, or that person's always really negative, because you start to see the world with clear eyes for the first time. It's not nerfed by alcohol and all your inhibitions going out the window, you know?
Well, that is quite often one of the hardest elements of change, is looking at your environment and having to sort of potentially slowly move away from friendship groups. And I've done it loads. I left school and probably had 2 friends once I left school, because I changed an awful lot from school. When I left uni,
what was the big change?
Well, the big first change was that I was the obese, fat, acting lad at school, and then I became the fit guy that lost 5.5 stone and became a personal trainer. So I completely shifted identity and changed my life. So didn't know those people anymore. They didn't know me. And then when I left uni, probably left uni with like 5 or 6 people that you keep in touch with. But at uni, you've got bazillions of friends. But all of those friends are transient, sports teams, clubs, all the rest of it. And I think that's quite often the beautiful thing of life, that friends come and go, experiences happen and they go. And, if you have 5 best friends in your life, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you don't have to have a best friend for 50 years. Like, you can do. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with having, 5 different best friends as you evolve through life and you're interested in different things and you have kids and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's fearful for some people, because there's probably a level of self-worth there to say, well, what if I don't find a new best friend? What if I don't find a new buddy to go, to the pub with or whatever? It's almost like, well, if I leave that friend, will another one come?
Yeah, well, it's a scarcity mindset, right, as opposed to an abundance mindset. And I totally get it, right? Being on your own is a challenge. And I have a extra amount of sympathy for the people that are listening who are in lockdown that are extroverts. I'm so fortunate now to be an introvert, because for me, I've been socially distancing for 32 years. I've been practicing social distancing since the day I was born. But I appreciate, and I've had a lot of messages from people who are saying, man, I'm struggling with the lack of social connection here. Like, this is really challenging. And to you, my heart goes out. Some easy hacks: FaceTime people more, do Skype calls more, make sure that you're organizing like consistent chats with people all the time to give you that sense of that semblance of like being with people and stuff like that. But on the flip side of that as well, like, extroverts have an unfair advantage every other period of life that isn't a pandemic lockdown, because you get to network more easily and you tend to go out more and socialize more and stuff like that. So this is a little bit of repayment for that. But yeah, man, people hold on to friendships, they hold on to friendships that are so bad for them. And I think questioning that, like, why are these people in my life? Like taking a minimalist approach as someone might with their possessions to their friendships, because like 2 bad friendships is worse than is very, very bad. Like 2 bad friendships where you've got 2 people who are impacting you negatively, that is like leading you astray. Maybe you've got a bunch of buddies who are still party boys. Maybe you're getting towards like your late 20s or your early 30s or whatever. And these guys are still weekend warriors. They're still getting a couple of bags in on a weekend. And all right, mate, let's go. We're going to the Dock House in Leeds this weekend. Like such and such a DJ's playing or whatever it might be. And you're like, yeah, bro, like, that was fun when we were 22, but I kind of actually want to try and find a missus and settle down now. I really actually want to try and find a boyfriend who I could move in with, or whatever it might be, right? Like, people are scared of leaving those people behind. It's like, well, what's out there for me? It's like, there's fucking tons of people that are out there for you. It's just a case of letting go of the ones that you don't need anymore.
So when we were chatting on WhatsApp before this podcast, we talked about what I felt my relationship with alcohol was before this. So we've talked about alcohol in its broadest sense and how people sort of use it. Generally, escapism, and I think escapism is something that I want to make sure we include in today's show, because I think that's a fascinating topic. And I don't know what level of escapism is healthy, because I think sometimes everyone wants to experience things out of their own body to an extent. It's almost a little bit fun. So my relationship with alcohol, probably have between 3 and 5 to 6 drinks a week. And I sort of said to you, I think it's a healthy relationship. I have like 1 can of beer. It's quite often like before a meal with the missus. Never have more than 2 drinks, because I just hate feeling tired the next day. Not down with any of that. Don't want it to affect my performance. And you were like, oh, cool. I want to ask you a couple of questions about that. Because obviously anyone's relationship with anything is how they want to deal and manage their own life at any given time. I don't think my alcohol relationship has changed with lockdown. It's literally been exactly the same. Like, I didn't have a beer last night, but I had a beer the night before. Then a glass of champagne with my wife the night before that.
Okay, so why? Why did you have them? Why did you have the beer? So tell me why you had the beer first.
Yeah, sure. So my 3 reasons are: I absolutely love sort of craft beer. So I never drink the same beer. I always drink a different beer from a different part of the world. All different sours, stouts, IPAs, NEPAs, all these things. What's some of your picks? What's some of your favourites that you've had recently? Oh, Jesus. There's a lot. Favourites. It's hard when you have a different one every day.
I was going to say, well, you're going to have to remember. You only ever get to see them once, and then it's in the bin.
Yeah, but I've already drunk.
So where are you getting them from? Have you got is it like a service of some kind, like a subscription service, or are you just going online and searching like coolipas.com or something?
Yeah, no. I've subscribed to a company called Beer 52, and they send 12 beers every month with a magazine. The magazine's all about the craft beer movement and how it's evolving. And my brother got me into it, and before that I drank shitty lager like everyone else, and then he opened up my eyes and I was like, mate. And it's like good wine. You start to enjoy the complexity of it. So I really enjoy just having a beer, and exploring beer as a thing. I love the taste. I love bitter tastes. It's my favourite. Somebody
might really enjoy different types of meats or different types of chocolates or whatever it might be. So I get it, man. Okay, so you had that, and then why did you have the champagne? What was the reason for the champagne?
Me and the wife wanted to celebrate our daughter being 4 weeks old.
Woohoo!
Exactly.
Yes, man. That is a pretty good reason. So I think, and since our discussion last year where you talked about this as well, I think you have it seems very balanced relationship with alcohol. I don't think that there's anything other than the inherent enjoyment of the taste, and based on what you've said, not the effect, being the reason you have it, right?
So second reason.
Yep.
When you used to have sort of afternoon drinking, you'd go out, you just get a little bit loose, have a bit of fun, but you don't really affect the next day. So my sort of half an hour quite often to myself, especially now, is be 5:30, I'm about to cook dinner, crack open a beer, put on some loud tunes, and I literally dance around the kitchen.
Dance around the kitchen, man.
Ever so slightly tipsy, because it's only 1 beer. I don't drink a lot these days. And it's kind of like I get a chance to just feel a little bit loose, a little bit like whoop, whoop. But then you sit down for dinner, have a normal conversation, and you're
sober by 8 p.m. or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this half an hour of escapism, like pure relaxation. I dance around the kitchen. And, when you sort of challenged me on WhatsApp, you didn't challenge me, but I knew you were going to challenge me. So in my head, I was already challenging myself. And I was like, but why not? It was fun. Didn't have any negative side effects. I enjoyed it. Didn't cost a lot. Didn't damage anyone. Put a smile on my face. And I was trying to pick apart the habit. So, do with that what you may.
So that's 2. And then what's number 3? Or was that number 3?
They're my only 2 reasons.
Cool, got you. Okay, so first off, you're one of the most challenging people to convince to go sober, because your relationship with alcohol is not destructive, and also you're very cognizant about the reasons of why you drink. First off, I would say that you are an outlier in terms of the way that people have a relationship with alcohol. I would wager that a lot of the people that are listening will drink more frequently, with less control and more regrets than you do. So anyone that's had a hangover within the last month that, well, actually, it's probably a bad shout given that we're in lockdown, but anyone that has hangovers consistently, where they think to themselves, oh, God, this sucks, you are choosing for that to happen. There is an asymmetry with drinking, right? I'll get back to you in a second. I'm coming for you in a second, Ben, but I'm going to get the people that are listening first. There's an asymmetry with drinking, right? And you get exponentially increasing suffering the more that you drink, and you get diminishing returns of enjoyment the more that you drink. So if you have 5 drinks, right, and then you double that to 10, you don't have double the fun as you had when you had 5, but you have more than double the hangover. Does that make sense? Mm. Yeah. So the curve of one of them goes up like that, and the curve of the other one goes down like that. That, my friend, is called a fucking losing position. If you were a trader and you knew that every trade that you were going to put on was going to make a loss, because that's what it is a loss, right? You would be very bankrupt very fast. And people that drink heavily and consistently, especially the ones that aren't doing it consciously, cognizant about it, you're doing that with your health. You're doing that with your health. You're doing that with your consistency within life, your routine, your structure, your mindset, all that stuff. Right, now I'm coming back to you. So again, very balanced, which I like. The few remaining arguments that I've got, one of them is from health. Okay, so there's a study from the Lancet, and it's the largest comorbidity study of alcohol that's ever been done. There may be a new one by now. This was back in 2017, 2018. And alcohol was found to be the single largest influence on non-disability adjusted life years for people under the age of 40. What that means is that every drink you have brings you closer to death. At the very best, it keeps your life the same length. There's a lot of people, like wives' tales back in the day, of touting around, wow, there's resveratrol in the red grapes that come into red wine, so actually it's life lengthening. There is some resveratrol in there. There are also some other antioxidants and things like that. However, that is offset and more by the increased cancer risk. And this is done in a study that covered over 100 territories, covered millions of people over years and years and years. Super long form study. Right, massive, absolutely massive. And anyone just search the Lancet, Lancet, alcohol, and the numbers are scary, man. So you have to consider: am I prepared to shorten my life by however much it's going to be? You don't know how much it's going to be. Am I prepared to shorten my life for the price to pay the price of shortening my life for the profit of having this beer? So that's the first one. The second one is, if you decide to go sober in a world which is telling you to drink, in a society which has completely embraced the norm of drinking, and alcohol is not even seen as a drug, and going sober is seen as something that's done by people who have substance addiction problems. If you are able to go sober in that world for an extended period of time and stay disciplined, the deck of cards starts to tumble after that for other behavior change challenges that you come up against. Because if you can go sober, what else can't you do? You can literally do anything that you want, because going sober is very challenging. Now, it's less challenging than people believe. It's a lot less challenging than people believe, actually, especially once you get going. Same as anything, the most difficult bit about behavior change is getting over the inertia at the beginning. It's deprogramming all of the existing structures. But once you start to do it, you actually think, like, if you can go sober for 6 months, right? As a young guy or girl, in fact, just as any guy or girl, if you can go sober for 6 months, what else can't you do? There's not much more in terms of behavior change that people would think is harder than that. Oh, I need to stop cracking my knuckles. Oh, I need to stop having like a piece of chocolate on a night. It's like, bro, you went sober for half a year when the entire planet drinks alcohol. How many people do you think have gone sober for half a year? Like in the typical Western world, normal people, normal physiology, you're talking single-digit % of people who go sober at all for more than 6 months in their entire adult life. So that puts you so much further ahead, right? So that's the second thing. First thing, what was the first thing? I can't remember my first thing. Health,
the Lancet report.
Yes, thank you. Second thing, as we've just gone through there, what was that one?
Just what else can you achieve?
Yep, deck of cards. Third thing. What's the third thing?
I hope you're not going to ask me about that because you haven't said it yet.
I haven't said it yet, no. What was the third? That was it. Right, okay. So 2 different iterations of the universe. So we've got, I'm ready to caffeine. Caffeine levels just dipped below where it needs to be, I just need someone to run in with a IV. So 2 different iterations of the universe, right? We've got Ben Coomber in Universe 1. We've got Ben Coomber in Universe 2. Everything else is the same. Ben Coomber in Universe 1 continues to drink. Ben Coomber in Universe 2 stops drinking. What is the difference 6 months, 12 months down the line between these 2 people? Now, the main question that you need to ask yourself, like, let's forget the stuff about health. Let's forget the stuff about the behavior change, because that's quite long term, right? If I ask you this question to listeners at home, like, consider it as well. Like, what would happen if you went sober for 6 months? What would happen if you drank 3 nights a week for 6 months, or 2 nights a week for 6 months? Where would you be? Where would you be financially, health-wise, mindset, friends, weight, all that sort of stuff? Where would you be in 6 months' time? Where would you be in 12 months' time? What's the difference between those 2? And if you can see, if it makes you, first off, if it's making you feel uncomfortable that I'm saying this to you, then you really, really need to consider what your relationship with alcohol is like. Because the reason that you're feeling uncomfortable, the reason you've got that visceral response in your stomach and it makes you feel, fuck this guy, fucking Love Island prick, what's he on about? Like, that's because you know that the real truth is that you would be a better version of you in 6 months' time if you stop drinking. And that you can then layer back on, okay, let's compound this down the line. How much better would my approach, my belief in behavior change be? How much more could I achieve in the future? I have more time, money, and calories to spend on things that I truly care about. Now, those are almost all of people's problems in the 21st century come from either too much or a lack of those 3 things: time, money, and calories. And that's what I refer to in 6 months sober as the key 3. So it's the key 3 benefits of sobriety. Consistency is another one, but I didn't want to call it core 4 because someone's already trademarked that. But you've got these things, right? And it's like, look, what would the difference be between those 2? So I'll ask you, like, do you think that there would be a marked difference in the way that you operate in 6 months' time if you decided to cut out the 12 to 24 beers per month? Because, I mean, you'll know what's the beers. The beers that you'll be having will probably be, 300 cals, maybe 300 to 400 cals each, unless they're a stubby?
No, they're only a small can, so like 150 calories.
Okay. So
it's not a lot.
Not tons.
Same as a Magnum Mini, bro.
It's all
same as a Magnum Mini, bro.
Fuck, I tell you what, Magnum Mini is good. So okay, you know what I mean? Like, you can see that, right?
Yeah.
Where's the difference? Or is there a noticeable difference between those 2 bends?
I will go deeper into that, but I don't think so. So financially, not an issue. My beer box is like 32 quid a month. I'm happy with that, like whatever. Socially, wouldn't change a lot. There's people in my family that don't drink. There's people in my family that do drink. Everyone's a lifestyle drinker. They'll just have a glass of wine. They'll have a beer. No one drinks to like excess in any capacity. When me and my mates go out, we have like literally 1 or 2 beers. We all drive. Like it doesn't matter. We all enjoy a pint of IPA. That's it. Like, we're done. Like, there's no drinking culture in my friendship group. Would it change my enjoyment and the level of escapism? Ever so slightly, but that's because alcohol, just relaxes your body. It heightens things. It doesn't ever impact on my sleep because I don't allow it to. Like, I literally have a stop gauge. Like, if I'm in a pub and someone says, "You want a third beer?" Like, I'd literally just walk out the door because I know what that means for me. So I don't think so, but I will explore and go deeper on that in case I'm giving the answer that I want to give.
Yeah, and again, we loop back to your discussion from you and your therapist, which is, what is my truth, right? Because a lot of the time, and we're kind of going real meta with this for people that are maybe a little bit more new to behavior change, but in the simplest way possible, you don't necessarily know what is best for your body, and also your brain is really good at telling you lies that you want to believe. So a lot of the time you will give yourself a reason, which is the first reason that comes to mind, or the most convenient reason that comes to mind, which is a proxy, a very convenient proxy for the truth. Super easy to swallow, doesn't actually ask you the hard question. And what you're doing there is you're trying to unearth, you're trying to strip off all that ego, get rid of all that, and say, right, okay, no, yeah, that's Ben. That's the first answer you gave. What's the real answer? That might be the same, but it might not. And again, for the people that are listening, this is something that you should consider, right? Are you giving yourself the easy answer? Are you telling yourself just what you want, essentially telling yourself what you want to hear, and then passing that off as the truth and being like, yeah, I know what I'm on about, dickhead from Love Island. So again, my main point here is that you are the outlier amongst most people's drinking habits. Like if you were to say to people, do you spend more or less than £30 a month on average on alcohol? Huge swaths of people are going to be well above that. 30 quid is like a round of Jaeger bombs in London, you know? And it's like one drink in New York. I was in New York a year ago today, so I'm sad. You know what I mean? Like it's the financial thing, big difference. The fact that you have your drinking under control because you've got hard lines in the ground. So let me just pivot for a second, because that's a really good point, actually, to give people some tacit takeaways on how they can start to control their own drinking. So first off, if you want to have a course that will guide you through it, 6monthsober.com/podcast will take you to everything that we've spoken about. But one of the easiest ways to think about your drinking habits is to do exactly what Ben's done, and to set what I call bright lines. It's known in behavior change as bright lines. And it is a rule that you stick to no matter what. And the reason that works especially well with alcohol is that alcohol is what I've termed an inhibition reduction echo chamber. It means that every drink you have makes not having a subsequent drink more difficult. We've all been there, right? One drink turns into two, turns into five, turns into a bottle of wine, turns into a kebab and a scrap at 3 a.m, and wake up with a hangover and all that stuff. You know, like classic. I just popped out and I ended up out. You know, like that classic old like comedy sketch. So, like the easiest solution for this is to do what you've done, and you've stumbled upon what I consider, as someone who's living in this space, to be the most effective way to control drinking if you're not going to go totally sober. I still think that because of the health effects, because of the fact that it sets you up for strong behavior change long term, and also because the two different versions will almost always tend toward the person that goes sober being further ahead. I still think that a period of focused sobriety is good, but if you're just going to reduce, then that's the way to do it. Way to do it is that, and I have to the elephant in the room is that I've seen 1 million people go into my club nights. So I am both judge, jury, executioner, marketer, and guy stood on the front door of the courthouse letting everybody in. My entire industry, my business, the house is paid for by people coming to my club nights and getting drunk. And a lot of the time people bring up what they might see as a little bit of a contradiction in, well, how can you be a club promoter and also be an advocate for productive sobriety, or elective sobriety as it's called? I'm like, well, I don't have a problem with people drinking. I actually think that it's a very important rite of passage, especially for young people. You know, you need to know you're 20 years old. Like people message all the time, hey bro, love the podcast. I'm 20 years old, thinking of doing 6 months sober. What do you think? I'm like, maybe do the 28-day or the 90-day thing if you want, but being honest, you've probably still got a lot to learn from being drunk. You need to know what it's like to have an argument with your mate at 3 a.m. and lose your keys in Manchester. Like, you need to know, right? Because that is a representative experience which allows you to relate to people when you're older. Like, you will have, especially as someone who played sports, like when you were at uni and all this sort of stuff, you'll have just endless numbers of these stories. And it's it is a rite of passage. It's par for the course. You kind of got to have it, right? Now, there's a more societal change question where you could say, well, could we get rid of alcohol altogether? Should we potentially make it illegal? If alcohol was introduced today, it would be a class A in terms of toxicity, addiction, all that sort of stuff. I mean, that's quite scary in itself. But the societal change thing, it ain't happening, right? Once something's got brought in and the values have been reduced down, which they have, they don't get taken back. So alcohol's not going anywhere. We're not going to have another, what was that thing? What was that thing in America where they got rid of it all?
Prohibition.
Yes, prohibition. So you need to drink, bizarrely, actually, to have like those relatable experiences that take you through later life. My problem is seeing someone who still drinks like a 20-year-old at 40 years old, 50 years old, because all the work that they've done with mind and body and spirit throughout the week, you know, they've got themselves to the gym. They've just about got over the hangover on a Monday from the weekend, and they've got themselves in the gym and, oh, well, I'm eating right and I'm doing this, that, and the other, and I've made these sacrifices, right? I've done sacrifice throughout the week. I've worked hard, and it gets to Thursday and they're thinking, yeah, I'm getting it. I'm feeling better. My mind's feeling better. I'm feeling fresh. And it gets to a Friday and they think, I've worked so hard this week. Better reward myself with 2 heavy nights out that reset all of the progress and the sacrifices that I made during this week. And seeing someone repeat that cadence for a decade or 2 decades or 3 decades is a tragedy to me. Like, it makes me so sad, man. Like, especially I'm from Stockton-on-Tees, so it's like the arse end of Middlesbrough, which is, you know, hardly like the most affluent area in the world anyway. And to see, I used to see these people who had so much potential, right? And who the fuck are you to judge on what people choose to do with their lives? I'm like, don't get me wrong, like, people can choose to do whatever they want, but I don't think they're choosing. I think that they're taking the path of least resistance, which is just a groove that's being cut from when they were a kid, and then they've grown up and they've never decided to deprogram this desire to drink. They've never decided, well, I'm actually going to see if I'm choosing to drink, if I'm just doing it because it's what people do. And yeah, man, it makes me sad. You know, it makes me sad that we've got a world where some brilliant people could be a lot happier if they hadn't continued to reset their progress every single weekend with a couple of heavy nights out. And it's like, you get one shot at life, like one shot to get everything right, to experience the things you want to experience, to be with the people you want to be with. And you're choosing to take something, and it's not even enhancing the situation. Like, if you were to choose something, I don't even know what the drug would be. I guess maybe like caffeine, perhaps, that would make you more present, more focused onto obviously not too much. But alcohol actually, bizarrely, it's memory loss. It's nerfing your emotions. It's sedating you and making you go to sleep. It's doing all of these things. And like, just to finish this section here, there's a concept called living with the edge. And this is something that's quite interesting. And this is actually coming straight out of the 6-month sober course. So if you go through life leaning on alcohol for support by using it to make stressful times less bad and good times more numb, you will lead a life completely void of edges. Now, edges are dangerous if you fall off them, but they're also the most exciting place to be. Standing near that edge is when you learn the most. You make the most memories. Looking back on your life, you'll find that you spent all your time in the middle 50% of experience richness. That will be a very dull place to be. So some things for you there.
So, you know, I said I had 3 reasons. I just remembered the third. Now you've read that out.
Hit me.
So, firstly, I've always had rules. So part of this for me comes down to what else people want to experience in their lives. So when I was at uni, I went out 3 times a week without fail at uni. Monday night was a fucking blinding night.
Where did you go to uni?
Hull.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Great nightlife, dead cheap. Anyway,
Attic in Hull. Is it Attic?
Yeah,
it would have been like a Lava Ignite or whatever when you were there.
Yeah. Attic, didn't go there much because it was a bit more kind of like emo rock sort of. Okay, you know, I've always been more electronic. Wednesday night was sports team, so that was a rite of passage. You know, lads, girls. Yeah. No regrets there. And then Thursday night was the big sort of dancey club, get dressed up, have a good time. Cool. But I'd always say to myself, at 2 a.m, as soon as I get that vibe, the party's dying off, I'm out. I used to walk home with a litre of water because everywhere was like 20-minute walk in Hull. I used to walk home with a litre of water, grab grilled chicken kebab on the way home. And
Ben, you do realise how unrepresentative your relationship with alcohol is, though, right? Like, there's no one listening that's going, yeah, that was me at university. Everyone's going, what a fucking freak. Like, that's not how people live their lives.
I know.
And again,
but my point is, if you create those rules, you can live between both extremes. So I'd be the guy that was up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to the gym, then I'd go to uni, then I'd go and work on my business in the afternoon at uni. But it was about making those decisions before you entered into the experience, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going out tonight, but I'm going home by 1, or I'm having 3 drinks, or I'm, whatever those decisions are for you and your life.
Bright lines.
And it's because, when I was younger, I always read the books of people that had seen and created success and seen failure, and they all had these rules. Like, everyone had some kind of system that they had to live by to get the output in their life that they wanted. So the third reason was actually memory. So I love festivals. I go to at least 2 festivals every summer, absolutely lose my marbles, have tons of fun, get covered in mud.
Where do you tend to go?
We quite often go to one local to us called Sundown in Norfolk. It's got a great dance lineup. But I've been everywhere, Glastonbury. I've been to I went to Croatia last year. It was incredible. 4 days non-stop. Pardon?
A hideout.
No, we went to Hospitality Records' first.
All right, yeah. Hospitality's legit, man. There's some good artists on that label.
Oof, I'd love to get a hideout as well. Oof. But anyway, so I listen to a lot of drum and bass. So when I have a beer, I'm making dinner, and I'm listening to those tunes that all come from the festival, I just get to spend 15 or 20 minutes reliving the experience of the festival. And for me, I just get that moment where, remember when we did that? Remember when he jumped off that thing? Remember when he played that track? And I love that experience. It gives you such a nice energy being able to relive beautiful moments in your everyday life.
Why couldn't you do that without the alcohol?
I could. I definitely could. It's just you kind of get that relaxedness and, just that moment, escapism. It's that moment where you're actually like, for a moment, I feel like I'm drunk. I feel like I'm there. I feel like I just don't give a fuck about anything.
Okay, so here we go. Here's bonus round on reasons why I'm going to try and convince you, right? The final one is that by using alcohol to exogenously give you a sensation, you will never learn to be able to create it yourself. Now, that's not to say, you've just said that I could do it, right? But alcohol just makes it a bit better. It's like, okay, if you were forced to go sober for a period, you would have to learn to be able to recreate that without the buttress of alcohol. And it's the same for the guy who can only go up and talk to girls when he's absolutely hammered, right? That was me. That still mostly is me, which is probably why I'm single after 18 months or 20 months of sobriety. No, it's not. I've got a fantastic Instagram game. But yeah, like if that's the guy who has to have the alcohol to go up and speak to the girl, if you don't ever go sober, you will never actually cultivate the ability to go up and speak to the girl. You will never actually develop the confidence to be able to talk in a group sat around a table having dinner. You will never be able to, people who drink to have a difficult discussion with their partner, or people that drink to be able to deal with the way that their boss talks to them at work so that they can relax on a night time, or the stresses of being a young entrepreneur, or pick whatever it is. For as long as you use alcohol as your support system, as the scaffolding that's in there, right? Like, you're never actually cultivating what it is that you need to get through that situation, because you're just relying on alcohol as the buttress. Now, again, the challenge with you is that it's a very holistic, non-destructive reason of why you're doing it. And it's not as if you're not doing it because you've got crazy aggression that you need to chill out by that because you just want to fight everybody in the street, or some other kind of malignant version of you. It's not that. It's just adding a flavor on top of reality. But again, with all of these situations, you can see how those 4 areas that I've taken us through, you are by far and away an anomaly for that to not be one of those things triggering and going, fucking hell, actually, mate, yeah. Like, do you know what it is? I do that because I have a bad day at work and I have to sink like 3 beers on a nighttime, or else I can't sleep, or I can't sleep unless I drink, or, you know, whatever it is. Pick your reason from what we've gone through.
And this isn't me trying to be like high and mighty or any of that for the listeners. I want people to know that there is a middle ground that ultimately has to work for everyone, and you have to be happy. And like you probed with me, it's like, could we get any more positive outcomes from you making changes? And if I can hand on heart say, no, I feel every layer of my relationship with it is fine, then as a coach, you would be happy with that. But if I then said, oh, actually, yeah, fuck, that's when we need the intervention. That's when we need kind of change. And sometimes you have to go to the extreme to find out where your middle ground is. And sometimes people don't get that with self-development. And that's why I quite like going all in on stuff. Like if I did feel I was having a poor relationship, I would be the guy to go, cool, I'll give up alcohol or whatever. Like, because I want to see what's on the other side of that shit. It's the same with fitness. Like I've been at the point where I've gone to the gym every day without fail for 2 hours a day, cardio, core, weights, relentlessly non-stop, to know that I don't fucking want to do that. Actually, I just want to go to the gym 3 days a week, and that's cool. So sometimes people have to go to the extreme, but you have to have the awareness to pull yourself out and find where your own middle ground is.
Well, what did we say at the beginning? I had that Wu Wei quote about the Confucian gentleman, right? The person who has to do the thing consciously. You have to deprogram what you're doing unconsciously, choose to do something consciously, and that actually enables you to be spontaneous in a way that's fully, completely internalized, right? It's you choosing to drink from like its actual core, and not only choosing to drink, but being able to give me like a pretty robust breakdown of like why you drink, which for the vast majority of people before this conversation, that might not have been the truth. Like, are you uncovering the reasons why you do the things that you do? And that goes from everything. Like, why is it that you get upset about the fact that your partner doesn't text you back immediately? Like, that's a good question to, because, this is a whole new, whirlwind that we can decide to jump into. But, why is that? Or why is it that you always catastrophize a situation? Or why is it, for the entrepreneurs that are listening, why is it that you have to work all of the time and you are terrified of taking a day off? Or that you feel like you should always be progressing and always be growing in your personal development? Why is it that? Could it be deep down that you don't feel like you're good enough, and that the only way that you can get people to need you and to want you and to become better is to constantly be layering new skills and new achievements and new accomplishments on top of yourself, And this is what, at the very, very beginning, when you were talking about, like, is this my truth? This is the onion that we're talking about when it comes to personal development and behavior change, right? It's like you strip away one thing, or you even like cut a big fat segment out of it. You cut a wedge out of your onion and you're like, oh God, conquered alcohol there. Did that 6 month sober thing. It was brilliant. You go, right, okay. You have got another 500 different areas of your life, precisely like alcohol, that you're going to have to jump into. You're going to have to do your relationship with your partner, with your parents, with your friends. Oh, and by the way, what about your health and your fitness and your mindset and the way that you view your body and the way that you view you? And you just go, and this is why it's a lifelong thing. And this is why I think that, trying to cultivate a growth mindset, as Carol Dweck would say, to continue to want to become better, to do all that sort of stuff. I think it's one of the most important personality traits that you're going to get in the 21st century. And, hopefully today we've started to get people to question some of their assumptions around alcohol, like, why am I drinking? Is it serving me? And, as a coping mechanism, especially now, to finish up, I know you wanted to mention this to do with quarantine, like, a lot of people don't have much else going on. They think, oh, well, I'll make my night a bit more exciting, make my night a bit more interesting by having a drink. And it's like, well, okay, again, why is your life not sufficiently exciting without this exogenous like injection of alcohol, of something to make it more? Oh, it just helps me relax. Well, okay, so you're telling me that you can't relax without alcohol? Well, no, I don't mean that. I'm like, well, it sounds like that's what you're saying. That's what your actual answer is telling me, right? Your answer is telling me I can't relax. Your answer is telling me that I can't have fun without alcohol. And pick your thing. I can't deal with a global pandemic without a drink. Like, it's I like the idea of an ascetic life, ASCETIC, which is people that renounce particular things. I love the idea of an ascetic life because it allows you to see what you're like without it. You know, allows you to see. And you mentioned this about going all in on things. And Jordan Peterson's got something about this as well, where he says about with young entrepreneurs. It says in your 20s, you should see if you can work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. You should see if you can do it. And then you should see if you can do 4 hours a day, 2 days a week. You should allow your discomfort to be pulled in one direction and pulled in another, because the type B person would find the first situation a fucking nightmare. But a type A person like yourself, if I said, Ben, you're allowed to work 8 hours total next week, it would kill you. It would turn you inside out. You go, oh God, hang on a second. Like, this is really challenging here. So all of these different things, relinquishing control of control, relinquishing control of working, relinquishing control of leisure, of alcohol, of comfort food, of a relationship, being on your own, being forced to be on your own, all this sort of thing. Each time that you do this, if you view it as a situation that you can learn from, okay, yeah, this sucks, but what's the lesson that I've learned? How much better and how much more robust and resilient can I be moving forward, having had this situation? I'm like, you know, if you cultivate that mindset, nothing actually becomes a problem. It's just a particular challenge that you need to find a solution to. And after you've found that solution, after you've got through the other side, you have a lesson that you've learned. And then that lesson you can use again in the future.
Mm. Mate, this has been absolutely awesome. Where can people find you? I know you've already mentioned it. 6monthssober.com.
6monthssober.com/podcast if you're interested in that. Modern Wisdom is the podcast. So check it out if you enjoy the sort of things I'm talking about here. I have far more interesting and well-educated people than me doing the same thing, just red pilling me daily on the podcast. We're doing 3 episodes a week at the moment. So yeah, search Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff, or at Chris Will X, wherever you go online. And that's pretty much it. I think that's everything, man. Thank you so much for having me back on, dude. I really appreciate it. And again, I have to say, like, the opportunity that you gave me whenever it was, a year and a bit ago, a couple of years ago, when we first started recording, it made a big difference to the podcast. So I've got a lot to thank you for.
Awesome, man. Mate, I've listened to a couple of episodes of yours. It's great. It's deep. And I like that.
There's I did one with a porn star. I did one with a girl that started admireme.vip, and I recently did one with a man that spent £1 million on drugs. So you are right. There's some intellectual ones, but every so often you can just find out. Oh, I'll have the one with I'll look at the one with a porn star. I'll look at the one with the guy that spent £1 million on drugs. But you are right. There's some that go fairly deep.
But that's good. If people want that, that's exactly the place to go. And yeah, mate, big supporter, big fan, and I'm always grateful to speak to you, because there's a lot of exploration that our own mind wants to have with each other, and I think that's a good thing. And I'm more than happy to be challenged on any of my fucking shit, because if I don't choose to challenge it, I don't grow. And you know, people might sometimes think it's almost a self-serving thing. Well, partly it is, because it's my podcast and it's my exploration of health and fitness, so I get to make the fucking rules. Yeah. Second thing is, if people follow, it's the right level of context. So if you listen to me last week and you listen to me next week, you get to hear the journey, you get to hear the gaps, you get to hear the kinks, and I get to constantly paint this picture where you can see what I'm trying to work through, because otherwise you don't allow yourself to really understand who I am and what I'm working through the podcast and through the experts and stuff. And also, I need to be vulnerable for everyone else to be vulnerable. You need to be vulnerable for all the people that are going through your program to be vulnerable. Without vulnerability, we don't grow. So what you've talked about today is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. It's going to make them vulnerable to the future, to themselves. You've got to embrace that. And I think this is why I often say we don't need to celebrate and broadcast everything online, because whatever change you want to make can be very personal. Like if you want to go and do Chris's program, then you don't have to announce it to the world. You don't even have to tell your girlfriend if you don't want to. For now, just log on, watch the first video and just be like, I'm just going to have a look at this. I'm just going to challenge it. And then when you feel more confident, you can then start to share things with the world. And we do get into a bit of a habit of like, oh, I'm starting a new diet. I'll post it on Facebook, and then Karen gets involved and Shirley gets fucking involved. And then everyone's already feeling judged because they've put it out on social media. So no one needs to be involved in this stuff if it just needs to be your journey with yourself for now. So take kind of comfort in that. But Chris, thanks again for your wisdom, legend.
Brother, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in. I think the synopsis to what you just said there was like, you need to see me last week and you need to see me next week. I think the synopsis to that is press subscribe to Ben Coomber Radio.
Boom. Hopefully they're already subscribed. Jesus.
Yeah, well, man, I can see the back end. People that listen to podcasts, you think I can't see you on the back end. I can see you on the back end, an Apple Podcasts Connect metric, and I can see how many people are subscribed and how many aren't. There's 30% of you that still need to hit the button, and you're just getting it delivered, aren't you? You're just checking when you choose to check and swiping up. No, go press the button. Thank you.
Boom. Right, people. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please share it around, send it to a friend, raise discussion around it, reach out to Chris, give him a high five, say hello to him. He's a great guy. If you want to see a good rig, then you're better off going to see Chris's Instagram. You are not getting a good rig on my Instagram. But I'll be honest, I'm doing half decent on the dad bond front.
Bro, you're in a total new league now. You're a total new league.
At least I get to bring out the dad bod program at some point, which everyone does.
That would be sick.
But I'm not going to do it, so whatever.
No, shame.
Chris, legend, everyone listening, all that leaves me to say is go and have an awesome day. Goodbye. Yeah.